Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Ashley and today we're going to be talking all about Menagerie Cosmetics Indigo Ink palette. I was so excited to get my hands on this. When I saw this on Instagram, I knew immediately that I wanted to pick it up. I have been wanting to try Menagerie Cosmetics for quite a while now, and I don't know what was holding me back, but when I saw this, I knew the time to act was now. So for those of you that have not heard of Menagerie Cosmetics, they are an indie brand out of Washington State here in the United States, and they have very nature inspired sort of makeup, and their aesthetic completely speaks to me. And you know, they do a ton of really interesting duochrome, sparkly, fun kinds of shadows, and you know those are right up my alley. So what we're gonna do in this video is I am going to insert 3 looks using this palette here, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about all of my thoughts around it. Additionally, I picked up some singles, which I will be using on and off at some point. So they're all of these right here in the corner. Don't mind these. These are my Terra Moons. But these are the singles that I picked up, and they're so much fun. They're so much fun. So let's go ahead and take a look at the looks that I created using this palette now. Okay, so I think I'm gonna go for a pretty simple look today. I'm going to take Pygmy, which is this beautiful kind of burnt red, and I'm actually going to put that all over my lid. And I'm gonna work it a little bit into the crease as well. I thought I might need to diffuse it out a little bit with Ink Floyd, but I don't think I really need to do that. Okay, so then I'm gonna go ahead and I'm going to take my NYX glitter primer. This one is my favorite still. And I'm gonna put just a little bit on the end of my brush. And then I'm going to use that to create a lovely base for this shimmer. Now, using my still sticky side of the brush, I'm going to go into Quid Pro Quo, which by the way is just one of the best shadow names ever. And this is just such a gorgeous, gorgeous shade. I'm gonna put it just all across my lid. Now, going back in with my original blending brush, I'm going to pick up just a little bit more and just tap it on this outer corner just to provide a little bit of depth. I'm also going to go, and with very little product, I'm just going to kind of lightly blend the edge of where the shimmer meets the matte. Just like that. Okay, I'm gonna do the rest of my makeup and we'll come back for the lower lash line. Okay, everything is done, and I'm gonna go ahead and do the lower lash line. And I kind of struggled with exactly what I wanted to do. So I think I'm just going to go ahead and go back into Pygmy and run that all along the lower lash line, but keep it pretty contained. I don't wanna go too ham with this. Just gonna keep it really very, very simple. Okay, and then the other thing that I'm going to do, and I'm only going to do it very, very lightly, But I am going to take a little bit of Squid Pro Quo, and I'm going to run that along the front. I don't typically put a shimmer underneath my lash line, but I really wanted to tie this together. And take a little bit of a bite out of the red, because red can be a bit intense under the lash line. All right, I'm gonna take my eyeliner. This is from ColourPop. This is the Creme Gel Liner in Black Flame Candle. This is from, I think, last year's Halloween release. I bought it this year, but I think it was part of last year's collection. Perfect. I think that green really helps to tie everything together. And then finally, I'm going to take just a little bit of Shell Yeah and use that as my inner corner highlight. And there we have the final look. Okay, so we're going to start this look off with a little bit of nori on a fluffy brush. This is a pretty intense color, so I'm going in a little bit lightly with the intention of building it up slowly. Okay, and then going in with a more tapered brush, I'm going to go into, I think, Inky Torpedo, and put that into my crease itself. And taking also a little bit of ink blot on that same brush, just to deepen up that outer corner a little bit more. Going back into that original brush that I used nori on, I just want to soften the edges. All right, adding just a little touch of the NYX glitter primer. I'm going to put that all over my lid. And then I'm going to go into, let's go with Ink Defense. Again, with the sticky side of that brush. Now this is a sheer base, so really gonna have to build this up a lot. This one is actually, I'm seeing, better suited to go over another shadow or use your finger to really pack it on there. So I think I will switch to my finger, even though I don't typically like doing that. This will just intensify it quite a bit more. That sure is beautiful though. All right, again, going back in with the brush that I used for the blues, we're just going to blend just around that edge to soften it up a little bit. as well as the edge of the outer V. I don't have any additional product on here, although you definitely could. I just don't feel like I need it. All right, let me go ahead and put on the rest of my makeup and then we'll come back and finish her off. All right, so I'm gonna take just this itty bitty kind of fluffy, flimsy pencil brush and I'm going to go into Tide Pool and hopefully not destroy this whole look. We're gonna run that right underneath the lash line. Okay, and then taking just this teeny tiny, really tiny pencil brush from Makeup Geek, I'm going to go into Ink Blot, and just on the outer third, I'm gonna run this very close to the lash line. Just like that. Okay, and then the last thing that we'll do is just also on a little bitty smudgy brush, I'm gonna go into Shell Yeah, put that right on the inner corner. All right, and here we have the final look. Okay, so I have a vision for what I want, but we'll see how that actually comes together. Okay, I'm gonna take Ink Floyd and I'm gonna take that into my crease and onto part of my lid, but not all of it. Okay, I'm just gonna leave it right there for the moment and I'm gonna take an angled brush and I'm going to go into Ink Blot and I'm going to attempt to do a shadow wing, something I am not always very good at. Okay, I think I like where that is. I actually had to tap off on my thumb just because these are such pigmented shadows. When I was picking up just directly from the pan, even though I was tapping in very, very lightly, I was still getting a little too much, but I think that this actually looks nice. Okay, I'm gonna go back in with this fluffy blush and I'm gonna go back into Ink Floyd and I'm going to try to just bridge that empty space, and I'm going to end up going back and forth between these two shades because I know that I'm going to need to sharpen this line up again, but I want the two to meet. I don't want there to be a gap. Okay, I actually really like the way that that is looking. Originally, I was gonna go in as usual with some NYX glitter primer before I went in with the shimmer, but I'm a little bit nervous. I don't want to mess up this line too much, so I think I'm just going to take a dense shader brush. This one here is from Sigma. This is the E57, and I'm gonna go into Shell Yeah and try to just very gently tap this onto only the pink areas. I want to keep that line nice and crisp. I don't have a lot of lid space, so hopefully I can achieve this. That's not working. Okay, so let me grab some spray and we'll try it that way. Okay, I think I'm happy with where that ended up landing. And now I'm just gonna go ahead, put on the rest of my makeup, and then we'll finish off the eye. Okay, all of the rest of my makeup is on, and we're just gonna finish up with the lower lash line. I was really not sure what I wanted to do with this lower lash line. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna start with Nori, and then if that's too intense, then we'll tone it down with, I think, small spaces. No, I think that worked just fine. I think that worked just fine. Okay, and then the last thing that we're going to do is we're gonna take a really small brush and we're gonna try to pack just a little bit of Shell Yeah into the inner corner. And then we have the final look. All right, so those are 3 of the looks that I've created using this eyeshadow palette. I'm also gonna pop in just a photo right here of the very first look that I created for this palette as soon as I got it. And I have to say, overall, I'm exceedingly impressed with this eyeshadow palette, or I guess it's technically a pigment palette because it does have a couple of reds in it. The Red 27 and the Red 7, which are not officially approved around the eye area, so technically it's a pressed pigment palette, but I really, really like it. So some interesting things that I noted is that for me, this stains a ton. I've never really experienced a lot of eyeshadow staining, and you would expect, right, that it would be the 2 kind of reddish tones. It's not. It's the blues and greens. They stain on me significantly. So it is not a deal breaker by any means. It is just something to be aware of. Now, even though they stain, as long as I use a good eye makeup remover, you guys know that I am such a fan of the Pharmacy Green Clean. That takes off most of it, but as I said, I am left with a little bit of staining, although by the next morning, it has mostly dissipated and you cannot see it through even a light eyeshadow look. So I don't want that to kind of scare you off of this palette. I just wanted you to be aware that that is something that I personally have experienced with it. But yeah, so this color story is one that confused a lot of people. I think with the name Indigo Ink, a lot of people, myself included to be honest, when the original artwork was released, expected a more monochromatic type of color story in here, and personally I'm glad that they didn't go in that direction, especially because they have another palette, Flight Fight, what is this? Hold on, bear with me. Flight Club, the Flight Club palette, which is all more on the purpley side. I feel like for them it would be super redundant. They also have Whale Song, which is going to be, I believe, discontinued, which is more blues and greens. So I feel like if they had gone in a monochromatic direction with this, it would have been very redundant as far as their line goes. Additionally, for me, I feel like this is a lot more useful for me in this color story versus a very monochromatic color story, where I tend to have kind of issues with monochromatic eyeshadow palette is that I feel like for me, and not being a professional makeup artist, not, you know, just doing this as a hobby, I struggle to create different looks. Whereas with this, you get a lot of different looks with it. Now, what I will also say is that for me personally, this is a companion palette. I really enjoyed the looks that I created using this. However, on a regular basis, I don't always want to go with such bright, colorful looks, especially because you've got all of these amazing multi-chromes and duochromes in here. Like for instance, Shell Yeah, which is what I'm wearing today. I sometimes will want to just pair this with some peachy colors, some warm browns, and have this really be the star of the show. Whereas when you use everything together in conjunction, it's definitely an ensemble cast as opposed to having one breakout star. So I love this palette, to be honest with you. I have loved every single look that I've created using it. And for me, at least, it's been very easy to use. Even though these shades are quite pigmented, I find for me that they blend out really nicely and very easily without going muddy and without blending away entirely. I have been so incredibly impressed with this formula that I want their entire collection. I can't lie, I want all of them. I did at the time that I purchased this, I purchased some singles. So those have been fun. I've played with them a little bit as well, and I've really enjoyed it. I've really enjoyed it. I'm sad that they're discontinuing some of these palettes, and I'm feeling compelled to buy them when they restock. I don't know that I will, because to be honest, I need to be a little bit more discerning is not the right word. I have a lot of eyeshadow. I have a lot of eyeshadow. So I don't need to bring literally everything that I like into my collection, but it is definitely a brand that if you have been considering checking them out, 100% stamp of approval, pick them up. They are really, really nice, and I am so happy that I have this in my collection because it is just so complex and interesting, and I really enjoy it. So is this a palette that you have picked up? I would love to know what your thoughts are. Is it one that you thought about getting and passed on, or is it one that you are waiting to pick up? Let me know down in the comments below. As always, everything that I'm wearing is going to be linked in the description box below. And if you have not yet subscribed, I hope that you will consider doing so. Thank you so much for spending some time with me today. I hope that you're having an amazing day, and I will see you next time. Bye.